Hi, welcome to Marriage Partners Ministries TV show. We're glad you've tuned in today. My name is Sarah Apple and I'll be co-hosting today with Dr. Kevin Egereth. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, well, I'm so glad that you've come to see our show today, and really happy to be broadcasting here again to do another show for you. I wanted to show you our workbook that we've got out now. Marriage Partners has put it out. I've written this, and it's a workbook that'll really help you to follow through on some of the great information that we teach, and it's got some check sheets in there, some questions and answers, and just a lot of things that will really help you to begin to assimilate the information that you learn from our seminars and put it into practical use.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Where should we get started today? What should we talk about?
Well, we did have some questions regarding the process that we teach called notification. Mm-hmm. And so I thought we'd just start there. And
so what exactly is a notification in terms of marriage terms? How are we going to use notifications?
Sure. Well, let's start with what a notification is.
Okay.
So it's kind of a formal process, and I define notification as the giving of an immediate feedback as to how your spouse is affecting you right now. It's an immediate picture of where you're at on their love spiral. And the reason we want to do it right now, we don't want to give a notification of something that happened a week ago, a month, a year ago, 10 years ago. We want to do it right now.
So it's fresh in their mind.
So it's very fresh in their mind.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Yep. Notifications, basically, there's a few different purposes for them. It's kind of a formal process.
Okay.
And one thing that we know about conflict is that about 90% of conflict is due to misunderstanding.
Sure.
And so if we can solve some of that misunderstanding before it snowballs into conflict, we can really do a lot of good for marriages and for relationships. So that's really the goal behind the notifications. Let me give you an example of a notification, how it would work.
Okay.
So let's say, for instance, you're at home, you're in the privacy of your own home, mm-hmm. and your spouse lets out a large burp.
Okay.
And your spouse maybe think that that's not a big deal. I mean, it's their own home. Maybe they were raised around a bunch of brothers that did that kind of thing, and it was funny.
Sure.
And they don't think that there's really anything wrong or harmful about it. But if it really bothers you, then that's where you use a notification. So how it would look is you'd say, honey, I want to give you a notification that belch that you did, I kind of find it to be kind of grotesque. It's kind of gross. I don't like that at all.
Sure.
And I understand that you think that it's kind of funny or whatever, but it's really kind of a love unwinder for me.
Right.
So we're going to relate that notification to what it's doing to your love spiral. It's a love unwinder. It's a negative force in the relationship. And so you'd say it just like that, and
I think that'd be like an annoying habit.
Yes.
Kind of annoying behavior.
That's exactly the category of love unwinder.
In your workbook, right?
That's right. That it would fall under. We have a whole section on love unwinders. One of them is annoying habits. And so that would certainly fall under that. Now, there's a right and a wrong way to respond to a notification.
Sure.
So the wrong way is to say, well, listen, this is my house, and I should be able to do what I want to do in my own house, and I should be able to, you should just have some tolerance for me. You should just learn to accept some of these things. I mean, this is just who I am. You should just kind of, leave me alone, kind of a thing. And that's, of course, a wrong way to handle a notification. The idea of a notification is that we're trying to improve the marriage. We're trying to give immediate feedback as to the impact that's having on your love spiral on a play-by-play basis.
Right.
So that would be a wrong way to respond to notification. A right way to respond would be to say, oh, well, okay, I didn't know that it would bother you. I didn't know that it would really bother anybody. I mean, it's not doing it out in public or in a public restaurant or anything, but I guess, I mean, if that bothers you, and I certainly don't want to be a bother to you. I want our romantic love to be increasing and improving. And so thank you for sharing that notification with me. And I will do my best in the future to restrain myself from doing that. I may make a little mistake once in a while because we always did it growing up and it seemed normal. So I may have a little oops here and there, but I'll do my best. And thank you for sharing that with me, and just, we'll go forward.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Another great example of a notification is, and I came across this not all that long ago, where husband and wife were out in public, and the wife was quite used to saying admirable things about the husband. And I don't think that she really realized how profound of a positive impact that had. And so they were in a group of some friends, and she was mentioning some really good things about her husband. And a little bit later on, not much, it was almost immediate, but not awkwardly so. And he kind of pulled her aside and he said, I just want to give you a notification. That made me feel really good when you were talking good about me to our friends and in front of others. And the impact that has on my love spiral is, pretty profound. You may not realize it, but that made me feel really good.
I think it falls in that category of feeling respected, admired.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
That's one of those key ones that men need.
Yeah.
So that would be a really good thing to do, and to notify her to do, so she continues to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. With notifications, one of the powerful effects of a notification is that it controls focus. And focus creates magnification. When you really focus on something, it will magnify that object. If you really focus on the bad news, that will tend to magnify in your mind, and you'll tend to think that just the world's not a very good place. And vice versa, if you focus on really good things, it'll magnify, and it'll tend to seem like there's great things going on all around us.
Sure.
And
frame of mind.
Yes, and notifications help to direct that focus in the right place, right exactly where you need it. There's another thing with notifications, that it's a powerful motivator. And you can motivate people, in the wrong way by complaining against them all the time, or you can motivate them through notifications in a positive way. So just one example of a powerful motivator in the form of notification is, let's say for instance, your spouse takes the trash out, and they don't do it as often as you would like, but they did it. And you noticed them doing it, you caught them doing it, to kind of stop them. Give them a notification. Say, listen, I'd like to give you a notification. I saw you took that trash out, and that makes me feel really good. I'm happy that you did that.
I really appreciate it.
Yes. Yeah, really appreciate it. Makes me feel good. And you can talk about how good it made you feel to really get the point across to them. So if you just mention real quickly and that's it, it won't seem like that big of a deal to them. But if you spend a minute's a long time, 2 minutes, discussing how good it made you feel and how appreciative you are and how it helps you out and all those things, that, for one thing, you're making them feel good about themselves because they did something good, and you're recognizing it. And they say, yeah, that is a good thing. Everybody really wants to be a good spouse. And so when you're letting them know you're being a good spouse, you're doing good, and I feel good about this, they feel good. And it naturally motivates them to do more of that same behavior. So they're going to be more motivated to take the trash out more often by doing so. And it works so much better than a demand would, being sarcastic, why don't you take the trash out more? I'm always doing this or always doing that.
You should have did that for the last 5 weeks.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, that would be the wrong way to go about it.
Exactly.
So notifications can be used on to notify somebody of something positive that they're doing, like taking out the trash, or complimenting them in front of their friends, speaking highly of them. But it can also be used in the form of wanting some change.
Mm-hmm.
So you can notify them, like if they belch that bothers them, But could it turn into sounding more like a complaint by just doing notifications if you're only pointing out the negative aspects and never doing it for the positive? Do you think that could turn into a bad habit?
It certainly could if you did too many negative notifications. And especially if you did when you do a negative notification, if you do it with a negative attitude, it's not how we intend it to be used. We'll get a little bit, I'll get to that a little bit more as we're talking about the notifications. We all need positive feedback, and notifications do just exactly that, to give us positive feedback about how we're doing in the relationship, how we're doing with regard to each other's love spiral, and the impact that we're having on one another. So it's a very useful tool. Notification of good that I'm doing for my spouse will help you to get credit for the good things that you're doing. See, a lot of times I hear people say, I'm just taken for granted. My spouse just takes me for granted. And that's human nature. To take somebody for granted is human nature. When you see a beautiful set of flowers, one day you're going to appreciate it. The second day you'll probably appreciate it. When you see those beautiful flowers day after day after day after day, you begin to just kind of look past them and you lose the appreciation for them unless you focus on that appreciation. And it's not really fair to say you take me for granted. There's two parts. If somebody's being taken for granted, there's two parts to it. There's the person that's taking them for granted, and there's the other person that's not bringing acknowledgement to the great things that they are doing. Let me give you an example, a great example.
Okay.
A while ago, I was over at my grandparents' house and I was visiting with them. My grandmother, she was a little bit riled up and she was kind of upset because the sliding glass door wouldn't move freely and it was giving her a hard time and she was frustrated about it. She had mentioned to my grandfather that she asked him to take care of that a few times and she was just conveying her frustration. And I just kind of sat back and just kind of paid attention. I was just kind of watching what was happening. And for those who know my grandfather, he's a very caring, giving person. He just sat back in his chair for a little bit, didn't move immediately. And later on, my grandmother was busy doing this and that, and she was talking on the phone, and she was making something to eat and talking with me, and just very active, very busy. My grandfather quietly got up, went out to the garage, came back in. He had a couple of screwdrivers, he had a rag, he had some oil, he had a few things, and he bent down and he started working on that door, getting the track cleaned up and adjusted and all that stuff. And I noticed my grandmother, she came over and she started talking with my grandfather about what he might like for dinner and this idea and that idea and all these different things. And she started to walk away. And I noticed right there and then, he's doing a good thing, but she's not really paying attention to that. Her mind is thinking about dinner.
Right.
And he was about to not get credit for the good thing that he was doing. And so I just kind of said, Grandma, I said, hey, did you notice what Grandpa's doing? And she stopped, and she had kind of a puzzled look, and she looked over at him and kind of looking, and she said, and then she put two and two together, and she looked at me with kind of that smile, and she says, yes, I did. And she went over and she patted him on the back of the head. And so it kind of clicked that he's doing that for her. And that's where notifications can be really, really useful. See, in essence, I did the notification for my grandfather.
Right.
And if that's a great place to use notifications. If he would have said to my grandmother, I want to give you notification, I probably should have taken care of this door sooner, but I'm doing it now, and I just want to bring that to your attention. Didn't really feel like doing it, but because I care about you, I don't want you frustrated, I'm taking care of it for you. So great example of being able to get credit for the good things you actually are doing. And we are responsible, we're each individual responsible people to try to not to take our spouse for granted, but at the same time, we need to bring attention to the great things that we are doing so that we're not taken for granted. Notification of a feeling that I receive from my spouse's actions. So it's not necessarily so when we do a notification, we're not necessarily saying, thank you for fixing me a sandwich. But we're saying, we're giving the notification that when you do make me a sandwich and you bring it out to me completely unexpected, completely by surprise, I feel cared for. So it's those feeling things, those feeling words that we're after. We want to know how it impacts you. So I feel really cared for, I feel loved, that I'm giving you that notification. And that way they know directly what it's doing inside the other person.
Right.
You know.
So you got to use feeling words when you're doing your notifications.
Yes. Yes. Yep.
You were going to say something along the lines of, if you're going to give a bunch of notifications, if you're going to give any kind of notification that might be a negative notification to let them know that something bothers you, you should follow that up with something so that's not focused on just negative. Do you want to talk about that one a little bit?
Sure. So we've got a number of rules that I've just kind of written out that are regarding notifications and how you would handle notifications. Just kind of keeps you on track, so it keeps the tool being used in a positive way.
Sure.
One of those tools is the 8-to-1 ratio. So we want to have, for every one negative notification that this bothered me or that bothered me, we want to have 8 positive notifications. When you did this, it made me feel really good. When you did this, I felt cared for. When you did this, I felt respected. When you did this, I felt admired. And it's very important to always keep that 8-to-1 ratio so it doesn't become a negative tool. We want it to be a positive tool. Remember, whatever you focus on increases, and what you look for, you'll find more of. So if you're looking for the color red, and you're looking intently for the color red, you will see burgundy as red. You'll see a dark orange as red. You'll see all kinds of things as red because you're looking hard for it. It's kind of the same thing with notifications. I might feel like, well, 8 positive notifications, I can think of maybe 1 or 2, but 8. It's going to get your brain working to look for the positive things your spouse is doing.
And that's going to make them feel good.
Absolutely, absolutely. And they won't feel like they're a terrible marriage partner. If you keep giving them negative feedback, they'll feel like they're a terrible marriage partner, and
you're hard to please.
Yeah. So if you come up, so if there's one thing that really bothers you, so you don't want to use negative notifications for every tiny little thing, but just for the things that really negatively impact your emotions. And then you need to follow that up, not immediate 8, but over a period of time you want to do
that week or the next couple days.
Yeah. And I usually recommend that every day a person does at least 1 notification.
Positive.
Yeah, because that's really what keeps us focused and keeps us in the mindset of having a great marriage. And so I think that's very important. Another rule is I want people to use marriage partners' specific language. So I want them to use the word notification. Every time they're doing a notification, I want them to use that word, notification. I want them to use the word love raiser. I want them to use the word love unwinder. I want them to use those words so that their spouse directly knows. We're talking about marriage right now. They're trigger words. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Let me tell you another really powerful story that really emphasized this point for me. There was a couple that I spent quite a bit of time with. And the husband, I heard him say just a number of different times throughout several years, I heard him say, you know, guys sometimes are dense. Sometimes you just got to hit them over the head to get them to pay attention, to notice what you're talking about. And I heard him say that a number of times, and kind of resonated with me a little bit. Kind of made sense. And then one time I heard the wife say, you know, I'm just feeling really lonely. I'm feeling really lonely. What do I have to do? Hit you over the head to get you to pay attention? And I saw the guy go, huh?
Cause attention.
That was a trigger word, hit you over the head. For whatever reason with them, that was the trigger word.
Sure.
And it caught his attention. And in that very moment, he realized, I am missing something here totally. I'm completely missing something here. And I need to be hit over the head. I'm missing it. She's trying to tell me. She has been trying to tell me. I haven't been picking up what she's been laying down.
We don't recommend hitting over the head for the notification word.
No.
But notification, love raisers, love unwinders.
Right.
Those are going to be keywords.
Right.
That sound more positive.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So my point in bringing up that story is that it really helped to emphasize the importance of using those very specific words, because it really gets the attention of your spouse. It gets their attention, and they say, oh, wait a minute now. This here, what you're about to say, is my response to what you're about to say is going to either ruin romantic love or it's going to build romantic love. This is really, really important. My response is going to be really, really important. And so we want you to use that specific language. I want you to use the word notification.
Notifications.
Another rule with doing notifications is that we want it to be immediate, as immediate as possible. It doesn't have to be awkward in the middle of a conversation with a third party to stop it.
Yeah, you don't really want embarrassment.
Right.
So it has to be appropriate.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
But I would like it to be as immediate as possible so that these things aren't building up over time. You know, when a person has a negative impression or a negative feeling, and it happens once, and they kind of just overlook it and say, well, maybe I'm being overly sensitive, or maybe I didn't understand the situation right, then it happens another time, and another time. Now, if you're not doing notifications, there could be a big misunderstanding occurring there. And when those things occur 5, 6, 10 times, it will form a belief system in you. And you'll begin to believe, based on proof of these 10 things, that your spouse does not care about you. And it's not necessarily true.
Because they might not even know this, whatever this is a bothersome.
Yeah. And so that belief system that you're strongly forming, that your spouse doesn't care about you, could be all based on 10 different misunderstandings. Notifications really help to solve the problem of misunderstandings because it's immediate. So it's really important to have it be immediate, not
Makes
something
sense.
from a month or a year ago.
And then they might forget, too, the incidents. They might not even remember exactly how it played out because they waited too long to discuss it.
Right.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Notifications and other rules that the purpose behind it, we're using it to invigorate marriage. So always be positive. This is a good thing, even if the notification is about a dislike. The whole experience of doing a notification is a good thing. And we want to keep it positive, uplifting. So the delivery of the notification, we want to be positive, even if it's about a dislike.
Mm-hmm.
And then how the other person receives that notification. We want that to be positive. So we don't want them to respond with being critical. We don't want them to respond with, which would be a love unwinder.
Sure.
Their response would be a love unwinder.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want them to respond being defensive. Well, I didn't mean it that way. You should not have taken it that way. Well, okay, if you didn't mean it that way, that's fine. but it's really important for you to see how your actions are perceived by others, mainly your spouse. And so the receiving of it wants to be very positive. And in fact, if I get a notification, I like to say, well, thank you. I mean, I didn't know. You know, most of the time we don't know. It's an accident that we affected the other person that way. And thank you. And I'm going to do this, this, and this to try to make sure that that doesn't happen again. So it's a positive thing. The next thing which we kind of touched on, the next rule, is that you want to use no love unwinders while you're giving and receiving of the notification. So let's just use being critical as the love unwinder.
Sure.
When you give the notification, you don't want to give it with a sarcastic, critical attitude.
No raising of the voice, just being calm about it.
Right, right. And then when the person, of course, is receiving the notification, you know, responding, we don't want them to respond being critical, being sarcastic, demeaning the other person's feelings.
Turning around on them or something.
Right, right, yeah. The whole idea of notification is it should trigger in your mind right away, okay, we're about to increase our romantic love. And how I respond is right now, this very moment, I have a moment right now to improve my marriage or to ruin it. And how I respond to this notification will do just that. And it's the same mindset when you're about to deliver a notification. Right now, if I do this positive, without being critical, I'm going to improve my marriage right now if I do this right. If I do it with sarcasm or whatever, I just ruined my marriage. So right now is very, very important. And that's kind of the gist of notifications, what they are and how they work. Do you have any questions about how that might play out more in real life situations or anything like that?
Well, I think the important thing is to remember that notifications is just another form of communication with your spouse, and that it's a good tool to keep things, you know, at peace in your house. You're not burying your own feelings, you're bringing them to the surface, you're dealing with things right away and not letting things snowball like you said. And another thing that I think is important that you said is that you're following up, if you have to do a negative notification, that you're following up with positive stuff on a daily basis as well. And so, you know, you don't turn into a complainer or feeling when one party is not feeling like they're unappreciated.
Right.
And so I think it can be very useful.
Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
That was very good.
So a couple of circumstances that I come across is when people first take a marriage seminar, read a book, start to go through a workbook, if they're having a lot of marriage trouble and they come across our seminar, come across our material, usually you're best to wait on doing the negative notifications for a while, because you really want to build that romantic love, build that sense of goodwill before you start doing notifications, especially if you've had a habit of being critical to your spouse. When a person's been critical to their spouse quite a bit, their spouse begins to get a sensitivity, and even the slightest rolling of their eyes or the slightest, you know, twinge, you know, just the slightest little thing, they'll receive as being critical. And so if you're just coming across our material and your marriage is in a state where it's having some trouble, doing the negative notifications is something you really want to wait on for a while, because you really want to elevate the romantic love above that romantic love threshold is the best place before you start addressing negative ways that your spouse is impacting you. So that's one kind of mistake that I see people doing with notifications, is they're doing it when there's too much contention between the two people still, and they're using it almost as a punishment. So we definitely want to wait on doing those so that it can be received well. The feedback that you get, I find, is really important. Some people are very sensitive to having any kind of corrective conversation about things that they're doing. They can get real defensive, and when they try to hold that in, a lot of their nonverbals are still doing that. They're rolling their eyes. They're like that, and they mistakenly think because they didn't say anything critical that they're not being critical. But as you could just see,
body language.
My body language totally telegraphed
I don't care
criticalness.
What you just
said. Yes. Yeah. So there can be definitely a period of time when you're restoring that romantic love where it's best to wait on the notifications. Certainly doing positive notifications is great, but waiting on any negative notifications until both of the spouses are above that romantic love threshold.
Yeah, raising the love spirals.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So did you have any other questions on notifications, or do you have any objections? I mean, I like to understand an argument a person might have to doing a notification, and I like to talk about that. Do you have any
I don't have any objections with notifications. I think it's brilliant, but I do think that we just, like you mentioned, you just have to be really careful with those negatives, that it doesn't turn into a bad habit. Constantly giving negative notifications and becoming a complainer, basically. That's the only caution that I would have for it.
One objection, or two objections I've heard is, I've heard some people say, this just seems awkward. This just seems weird. And I want to just encourage people that, yeah, it might seem kind of weird at first, might seem kind of awkward at first, just like starting a new workout routine feels really weird to your muscles at first. But you'll quickly get used to it. You'll form a new habit, and after a short period of time, it'll seem very natural. It'll seem very comfortable. And it doesn't take a real long time to get to that point. I want people to think of, I've had, some people say that doing these notifications and using the specific words, it's very restrictive. It just seems as so formal. Well, in a way it is kind of formal. In a way it is kind of restrictive. But I want you to think of it like this. Your marriage is on a superhighway going straight towards romantic love. Okay, that's the course that we've got you on. Doing notifications are the guardrails. And our other policies are too. The 14-hour policy, our other policies, they're all guardrails. And they are restrictive to the extent that they keep you on that superhighway going towards romantic love. So yeah, it's restrictive, but it's restrictive in a good way. And that's the kind of I guess the point that I really want to emphasize is it's a good thing that you're doing here. Don't let the restriction of it make you not want to do it, because of course if you get off the superhighway, then you're off in the ditch, and that doesn't help anybody.
Nope.
So I think those are probably the main objections that I come across. Is it doesn't feel natural, and you can make it feel natural by making habit, and that it feels restrictive, and it is, but it's keeping you on that superhighway to romantic love.
Sounds great.
Yeah. And our workbook here, I'll just point that out again, another little shameless plug. That can be found on Amazon or on marriagepartnersministry.com. And there's a whole section in here on love unwinders and a number of other things too. And it addresses the notifications, and it can really help you to, as you follow through, as you go through the workbook, it just refreshes your memory to all the things. There's a questions and answers section in there, and if you get to a question that you don't know what the answer is, then I would strongly recommend that you go back and refer to either the marriage seminar material, or the home study course, or refer to the book, our book that we put out, Romantic Love's Subconscious Secrets, and look for those answers. And that practice of study, looking for an answer and going to find it, instead of just writing down any old answer, you cheated yourself out of an opportunity to learn. and it'll really help you to assimilate how all these pieces fit together that we teach that will that create a passionate marriage that lasts a lifetime. And that's really what our hope is for you, is to be able to coach you into that and help you out with that. So at this point, if you have any questions, I would encourage you to either email us. Go ahead and take a look at the website. You can go ahead and send a letter. At the bottom of your screen, we'll have an address where you can go ahead and send a letter. If you'd like to send a letter of encouragement to how your marriage is being helped, how it's being improved, we'd certainly would love to hear from that. If you'd like to send a letter of support, we always would certainly appreciate that. Just keep in mind that what you make happen for others, God will make happen for you. Thank you.